climate alarmism, San Francisco, which is dealing with homelessness a lot, isn't it? And the pathological character of the response of the institutions to the fact of homelessness, and neurotics getting control of the helm here and running us aground. And you think you know what's behind it. And I had a thought. My thought is, whereas you decry the alarmism of the climate alarmist, a person might say there's a kind of alarmism in your diagnosis. I mean, we're in pretty bad shape if you're right. And I'm not sure exactly what you're recommending be done about it, but there's a perhaps somewhat exaggerated sense of doom that I detect in your.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope I'm an alarmist. I mean, I think there's a really reasonable question around how bad is the situation. To give you one number, the percentage of Democrats who want the government involved in censoring so-called misinformation online rose from 40% in 2018 to 70% last year. That's a huge increase of support for censorship.
I'm sorry, say it again. The percent of Democrats who did, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear. The percent of Democrats
who support government censorship of misinformation online rose from 40% to 70% in 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
As you know, people mostly don't change their mind about anything. I mean, or if you do change your mind, it happens very slowly from your 20s to your 50s over generations. So to see Democrats support censorship in those numbers, I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, so I was born in 71, grew up in the 80s and 90s. We had question authority bumper stickers as lefties on the bumper stickers of our cars. Our parents told us about Skokie, 1977. Supreme Court said neo-Nazis could march through neighborhoods, not just of Jewish Americans, Holocaust survivors. Now we have a situation where most Democrats want the government involved in censoring so-called misinformation on social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, now X. That, for me, is absolutely terrifying because the First Amendment
I have a theory about that. I mean, I am an amateur in this realm, but I have a theory. And my theory is that the demos has moved right, and the mainstream credentializing, information-producing institutions have become discredited. And so a lot of the subversive action of the sort that people who were vaccine hesitant or who might think Trump is not the worst thing in the world is expressing itself in these off mainstream platforms, which the left wants to regulate. That's why Elon Musk is a bad guy, and the need to control this. I mean, the Russia collusion hoax.
Yep.
And all of that. I mean, I'm talking to a Twitter Files guy, so I mean, you should be telling me. But my theory is because of the changing character of the interrelationship between political partisanship on the one hand and the media of the distribution of information, control over what happens at the media, at the internet platforms is where the left is fighting its rearguard action. Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's basically right. I think that, between 2017 and today, the establishment has said that Donald Trump is going to be a dictator, is threatening democracy. And the only reason people support him is because A, people are racist, sexist, transphobic, you name it. And B, victims of misinformation. And so in order to save our democracy, we need to have more censorship, and the government needs to be involved in that. But this is a very un-American idea, as you know. I'm not a First Amendment scholar. I'm a real amateur. I'm really learning it for the first time. But what's so striking about it is that the founders of this country, they did not think that free speech was some right that was given to you by the government. As in Europe, the king decided what was the acceptable bounds. And you could petition the king, and the king would maybe say, okay, you can have a conversation about those things. That wasn't how the people that came to this country imagined it. They thought that free speech was an inalienable right. It was a fundamental human right. It was not something that was given to us by the government. Many people didn't want to have a country. They opposed unifying the colonies unless they knew. And this was the First Amendment was sort of a sop to the people who had the concerns about too much state power. First Amendment was a way of saying, look, you can say what you want to say. It's not up to the government. The king doesn't decide. There is no king. The president's not going to decide. The courts aren't going to decide what you can say. It's a fundamental human right. And that has been the view. It really got tested a bit. When the Nazis wanted to march through neighborhoods of Holocaust survivors, you kind of go, geez, how far do we take this? We have very few limits on it. We don't let people lie in order to steal your money. That's considered fraud. We don't let people lie to just absolutely destroy you financially. That's considered defamation. You can't lie in order to commit acts of violence immediately. In other words, the Nazis can march through Skokie, but they can't say, burn that house down or kill those people. That's illegal. I can't threaten you with death. We can't organize. You can't use words to organize violence. But beyond that, you can actually say that America should be a communist country or America should be a fascist country. You are allowed to propose the end of the United States of America. You're allowed to do that under our Constitution. So to have people saying we need to have the government involved in deciding what's true or not on social media platforms
Okay, Michael,
is so radical.
I hear you.